Dun, dun. Howdy, Ignite You people. It's it's me.
It's him.
And Angie Whitten.
And me.
She does this thing, I can't do it. I heart her. I love, I gotta do this.
I heart you.
She did this thing on the boat, and it's like, that is so cool, but I can't. I always do it, so more of a...
Just straighten your thumbs.
There we go.
There you go. See, now it's art. And tuck your fingers.
Tuck.
Oh, see, look at you learning.
All right, so we're at the casino now. We just got in the car. We're gonna pull out here, and the interviewing process continues. Last week you heard us talk about the stuff with Gilbert Quante, amazing guy. So we're gonna put Angie Whitten in the car today.
Yeah.
We're gonna take off and ask
it's
her
like
a few
cash cab,
questions.
right? I get money for this?
Yes. I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, this is like some sort of game show in a car, but I can't figure out what it was. I used to love that show, Cash Cab. I got to get some lights and stuff that go off and bells.
Yes, woo!
If you answer the question right, ding, 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 ding. And then, so if she answers the questions wrong, we just kick her out, just like Cash Cab. That would really suck if all of a sudden I dropped you off in like 5.
So I might need a ride because we're near the casino.
Stay tuned. I'm going to take her a long ways away. So we don't know what we're going to talk about today. We're just going to talk about Angie's been. Well, first of all, how long have you been with us? How long have you been an Ignite You member?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And you were just telling me that when you joined, you were actually only in business for 3 months, correct?
Yep.
So
February will be my 3-year mark.
And you hadn't run your own business before at that
Not
point,
my
right?
own, no.
So you'd been doing some stuff for other people. And then had you done any networking ever?
I had. I visited about 7 groups before I found Ignite You. And they just weren't a good fit for me.
And why was Ignite You a better fit than the other groups you visited?
There were less rules. There's no mandatory attendance because I don't like being told what I have to do, even though I show up every meeting. But it's like I don't want somebody telling me I have to be. Yeah, exactly. And they had, there were smaller groups, like maybe 12 or 15 people, and there was already a photographer in there that was pretty well established in most of them. So, yeah, it was, and I just walked in and it was like welcoming and fun, and it had more energy and a pulse. I felt like I could be myself. I didn't have
pulse.
to.
I like that. It had a pulse.
Yes.
So, we're going to talk about what you did along the way, but here's what I want to know.
Actually, the week I joined is the first week there was a Tuesday. It was the first Tuesday.
Really? The first time we had a Tuesday meeting was when you joined. And now you're there at almost all the Tuesdays and all the Fridays. You're there all the time.
Yeah.
So
if I'm in town, I'm there.
And so here's what's funny is the Tuesday meeting, it didn't take off very fast. And so there was actually one point where we only had 8 people show up.
Yeah, it's like one table.
Yeah, one table. And I told you, I said, that's it. We're going to cancel Tuesday. And the lady that convinced us we should start a Tuesday was Michelle Graham, because she had a hard time coming on Friday. So she said, can you do a daytime one? We said, all right, we'll start at lunchtime on Tuesday. And but man, it started out slow, and we were going to cancel that thing. Now, like last Tuesday, I think we had 90 people in the room or something. I'm like, whoa, it's a good thing we didn't cancel that thing.
Right.
So so tell me, when you started, when you attended, how often you attended, and then tell me how how that affected your income. What did you see in your revenues coming in for your business? Oh, by the way, so for those of you that don't know, Angie Whitten is a photographer extraordinaire. She is the owner, CEO, president, chief operating officer, chief fun officer. She's everything at Harmony Photography. She's the one who gets behind the camera. She specializes in boudoir photos. She does great event photos. You do wedding photos. What kind of photos do you not do?
Pets and aerial work.
Pets and aerial work.
So no drone work.
So no drone work. So everything else she does amazing. She does when she does event stuff, well, people stuff I should say, because everything's an event when you have people. She has a uncanny ability to catch people just in the moment. And so she has these great photos where people are, their heads are back and maybe they're laughing or something, and you're always going, how does she get those photos? Or she just had an awesome one. You guys might have seen this one with the 12-year-old baby.
12-day-old baby.
12-day-old baby, sorry. in the group, and it was the first time that Dad got to see the child smile, right? Mm-hmm. And Angie caught it on camera.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, knew it was coming, right?
Yeah.
And caught it on camera so that Dad and Mom and so everybody could see that for eternity. So she has an uncanny ability to be able to do amazing photos that I don't see a lot of photographers able to do quite as well as she does. So
thank you.
That's Angie Whitten. So let's go back. Tell us how you started attending, and what you saw for your income and how your revenue from Ignite You, and how that started building your business.
Okay. When I started, obviously, businesses start out slow and you have to build up clientele. So I was doing maybe a few $100s a month at that point. I was in the car industry for 20 years and then just switched to photography because it was like a lifelong passion. So I was really starting from zero. I didn't have it's not like I had been doing stuff on the side for years. So I started at zero and I thought I need to go meet more people. So I'm going to go find some networking groups. When I came into Ignite You, there weren't any other photographers, and I thought that was a good sign. And I just went in there and was authentically myself and decided that I was going to create authentic relationships, and that the money would follow. And it started out slow because I didn't have my pricing correctly done. I was competing with Craigslist photographers, as we call them. So it started out slow, but
hopefully we didn't lose everything. The phone rang. I was like, "Oh, what do we do now?"
All of a sudden,
I wonder if they were still watching that when that's funny. Okay.
So. I know, we're like,
what do we do now? Next caller, please.
Next caller. We're taking calls. Here's Cash Cab taking calls.
All right. Keep going.
So, I was still working part-time job as a bookkeeper. So I was filling but I told them that I had to have Tuesday and Friday mornings available when I got the job, because I actually got the job after I joined.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. And because I was afraid to just fully jump in. And then after my accident, I lost both of the part-time jobs I had. So I had to fully jump in, and it's been a blessing. So
2.5 years, and literally when you started, you were at $0 of revenue coming in. You start off slow.
I think I was making a couple $100 a month.
So a couple $100 a month. You're brand new into it, and your mode of operation was to be able to come in and create relationships and just be authentic and genuine with people.
And trustworthy.
That's
really big deal to me.
And I know that a big one of yours, we were just talking about before we went on camera, was that you give as much as you get. So you're big into, whenever you're out there and you're talking to people, you're always talking about other members, and so you're big on giving referrals.
Absolutely, and giving business myself. To everybody in the group.
So that's a common thread that is between you and Gil from last week, is you guys are investing heavily into the group and giving referrals and actually doing business yourself with people in the group, without the expectation of getting anything in return, but you get in return.
Yeah.
And so remember that, gang. That's important.
So something I was taught from a pastor once is, if your hand is extended to give, it's also open to receive. But if you're holding your resources tight, then it's not open to receive anything. So if your hand is open to give, you're able to receive.
That's awesome. So tell me, I know you track your numbers, and I know we had a testimonial slide for you that 68% of your clients at that point had come via Ignite You, some Ignite You connection.
Yeah, it's either an Ignite You member or a referral from them.
Okay, so tell me, in 2.5 years, how you've seen that inch up. I don't know if you know, like, at what point you hit what type of number, but I know you had a phenomenal December. So just tell me how that inched up along the way.
It almost like it doubles all the time. So like when I look at like my annual revenue, it's like doubling each year. So the more, as Ignite You has grown, because again, when I joined, Tuesday was just starting, and Friday was like maybe 60, 70 people, and that was huge. That was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Just as more people come in, more relationships are built, and the marketing and prospecting that you do today isn't a payoff tomorrow, it's a payoff in 3 months is what the average is, right?
Okay.
So it's like continuing to nurture relationships and then getting to know each person as they join. I try to meet everybody, because not just because they might need my services, but I might need theirs. I might have somebody that's looking for, a house cleaner or, whatever. And my network of people outside of Ignite You come to me constantly. Is there anyone in your group that does this? Is there anyone? It's like they know. Last night at my chorus rehearsal, somebody asked me if we had any dog groomers. So it's like, well, I will go look and find out. So just the continuing to create relationships with each person as they come in builds your, I don't like to use the word network, the family, like your tribe. That's it.
Good.
Tribe.
So I know that when you hit, and this was, I think it was the first time I ever heard you talking about it, was maybe last fall, the end of the summer, sometime in there.
The one we just had?
Yeah, where you hit a $10,000 month.
August was my first $10,000.
August, okay, I had it right. August was the first $10,000 month. And then it's
insane.
And then
if you guys know numbers for photographers, that is insane.
And then it continued that way. So it wasn't it wasn't a $10,000 month and then it dipped down. It was $10,000. It continued to grow, and December was like almost $20,000.
So close,
and
close to 20.
I think what you were telling me was your December was about half of that came via Ignite You connections.
Yep.
So it was like $10,000 in 1 month had come, and so 2.5 years ago it was zero. Now here's the one thing you just said that really resonated with me. There's certain things, Gil did this to me where he'd say something and boom, I was just like, wow, it was an epiphany. And you just said something too. You said that as Ignite You grew, your income grew. So when you started, it was a much smaller group. And now as it got larger and larger and larger, and you were able to make more authentic connections, your income grew.
Yes. You
also said before that your big thing was basically if you're in town, you're showing up.
Yes.
So here's what I want everyone to be able to hear on that. I'm always thinking to myself, okay, we're about 420 members right now. How do we look at 840 at double that?
Yeah.
So does Angie's revenue look like $40,000 a month? And some people might look at that and go, oh my gosh, is that doable? Well, I'll bet you when Angie started, she didn't think $20,000 a month was doable.
No.
I bet she would have been overwhelmed and said there's just absolutely no way. And I'll bet you now she thinks, oh, I can do that any month now. December wasn't a big thing. It was just it was just me doing my stuff. And so my whole focus a lot of times is how do we continue to do things to grow that network? And that's why we put in place the referral programs. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing these things in the car, is so that I can talk to people like Angie so other people can hear that there's some secrets to being really productive and effective in this networking thing. Number one, it's showing up. We heard that from Gil.
That's the biggest one.
It is. We heard it from Gil. We heard it from Angie. You've heard it from me. And I've said it for a long time, but I want people to hear it from someone other than me who's having the results. And so here she is, gang, having the results. So number one is showing up. And one of the other things is for everyone to continue to invite people that you know into the tribe, into the network, into the family, because it's good for everyone. It helps us raise that. And here's the one thing I was thinking about. Les Brown's daughter was here several years ago, Ona Brown, and she's a great inspirational, motivational speaker. And we took her up. She stayed a couple days after she was here speaking, and we took her up to Seattle. Sherry and I did, and we took her up to the Ballard Locks. She'd never been to see any locks, and we took her to the Ballard Locks, and so she watched how that worked. And so there was a big barge that came in from the Puget Sound side, and it literally really filled up the entire lock. There was just a few inches on either side, and so they had a team of people who were on those radios communicating with everyone to make sure they didn't hit the sides of the locks, and so they just barely fit in. And then they closed the lock behind them and they flooded it, and so they raised it up so it could exit onto the lake side, the freshwater side. And she's watching this whole thing, and she's watching all these people, this team of people who are making all this happen. And so there was people on radios, there was people running the engines, there was, all these people. And when it got done, she looked at me and Sherry, and she said, it takes a team of people to raise that barge. It takes a team of people to do, and so it's the same thing in Ignite You. It takes a team of people to raise the revenues. It takes a team of people to raise all those things that we want to have happen to be successful. And the more people we have, the more that we can raise that. The more and the faster and the bigger and the better, the whole thing.
Because if it would have stayed it was just about 100 people, I think, when I joined, there's no way that I would be where I am. Right. And it's because everybody is going out and increasing the tribe.
Yep.
Increasing the family. And, it's like you can say it 1,000 times, show up. But if you're frustrated that you're not getting stuff, really evaluate how often you're there and what you do while you're there. Do you walk in and sit down and order your food? Or are you going and meeting new people, greeting new guests, talking to people that you've met before, asking about referrals, giving them referrals? What do you do when you get there? Evaluate how you're using your time if you show up.
So 2 things, man, you really hit it on the head there. So 2 things. Number one was the showing up. And the second thing was, what do you do when you show up? Yeah. So tell me what you see from people, because you're actually out in the mix. You're sitting at the tables, you're talking to people. Sherry and I aren't. So you see some things that we don't.
Right.
And I know we see some things that you don't. And that's why I love doing this interview in the car. Tell me what you see from people who show up occasionally. They show up, just whenever, or once a month, or just very sporadically. What is the feedback you get from them on what's happening in their business?
That, you can tell if somebody's all in or not. You can just tell by their body mannerisms. So when you're doing the 3 minutes at the table, here's a tidbit. Make eye contact with the person who's talking. Pay attention to what they're saying. Don't check your phone or get your business cards out or have a side conversation with somebody there. Listen, because that's when you create the relationship. They want you to listen to them as much as, it's like reciprocal. You want people to listen to you, you need to listen to them. So the people that are kind of phoning it in, as I call it, are the ones that are checking the phone, or they're distracted. Or they go to the same people each time they come in.
They always sit with the same people.
They have their clique, and cliques are now what create referrals. Honestly, they're just not. And also worrying about I don't like the word competitors, but the people that are in the same industry in the room, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because that whole like, know, and trust thing, everybody's gravitating toward the people that they are supposed to work with or want to work with. I don't worry about other photographers because I get plenty of stuff out of there, and I refer to other photographers in there.
And the other thing is,
I never ever view them as competition.
And a lot of times they're not, because you might have a pet photographer, which is something you don't do,
right? That
you can easily refer.
Or if it's a date that I'm not available, I'm happy to refer it.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't think about that one. So think about it. If Angie is really busy and she doesn't have a date available for a boudoir shot or a wedding or whatever it is, who's she going to refer that to? Well, would she refer to a total stranger or another photographer that she's built a relationship through Ignite You? That's why, man, that is just so good. I hadn't even thought about that. I couldn't
manage the whole membership. If everybody in the membership wanted to use me as their photographer once a year, I could not manage that workload. So knowing that it's okay that not everybody in the room is my client is huge too.
Right.
Because I might be their client. Or maybe it'll help Angie Guy.
Right.
You know.
Wow,
I want all
big.
of us to succeed.
That's big. So,
sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good. So when people are when they're so number one is showing up, and I see it a lot, and I'm amazed that people when they first join and they say, "Oh, I'm going to be here the whole time," and you know, a month later you don't see them again, and the big thing too is this networking thing is such a long-term game. It's not even. I wish I could make the first part of the membership, you know, now we make it an annual membership, and that's because a lot of times we need to force people to stay in the game that long or else they'll just be out of it. Right. I wish I could make the first part of the membership a 5-year program, but I know it would scare people away where they wouldn't join. But people just don't realize that it is a long-term thing. And so even like Gil last week was talking about, he did 7,000 in his first year and almost 50,000 in his second. And had he decided to quit after his first year, he would have missed out on $50,000. And I'm always a little bit heartbroken when I see people who come to the end of a year and go, yeah, it just doesn't work out. And so they quit. And then I'm always looking back and I'm going, okay, how often were they here? And typically the people that don't stay on didn't come very regularly. Mm-hmm. They came very sporadically, and so they didn't get the leads that they wanted to. Or the other thing is they didn't do like what Angie and Gil were talking about. They didn't do a lot of referrals themselves. They didn't do a lot of business with other people. Mm-hmm. But they were kind of uptight when other people didn't do business with them, you know. And so it's interesting to see from your perspective and mine what people's thoughts are on showing up. And I'm confident that if people said, you know what, I'm going to show up every Friday or every Tuesday or for both of them if they could for the next 52 weeks. They just put it on their calendar for 52 weeks and they made an appointment out of it and said, that's where I'll be. There's actually very few people who have the stick-to-itiveness to do it. They'll do it when it's convenient, which means they're there more on a transactional basis than a relationship basis. Right. And because here's the thing is, you can't know about other people to give them referrals if you're not there to learn about them. Right. And
because if I'm only doing business in the Facebook group, it's because I'm wanting business. Right. Not because I'm giving it.
Right. Yeah. What your mom had made a really interesting comment to you that I loved. What did she say to you recently?
She said that Ignite You is like my church. And at first I was like, wait, what? Like, I mean, like that was blasphemous. You know, like, oh, I worship Kieran. You know, it's not, that's not what she meant. She meant that is where I draw my fellowship from. That's where I choose to spend time in nurturing relationships because people are... So many people in there are so authentic and genuine and loving and caring. It's where
Preach it, girl!
Preach it! I have spent holidays with Ignite You members.
Yeah, you have.
I mean, some of these people have become some of my best friends. Even my quote-unquote competitors. You know, like, I absolutely adore Adam Berman. He is one of the coolest people I've ever met in my life. And when he first walked in, it was, oh no, there's another photographer. Yeah. You know, it's like, I love these people. And it is like a high to go into the room and know that your people are going to be there. So her saying that it was like my church was not saying that I was like worshiping false idols, but just saying like, this is where you get fed. Yeah. This is where you get your... recharge from. Yep. Which is true.
I hear that a lot of people who will come and tell me, they'll say, man, I really wanted to stay in bed today. I didn't want to show up. It was just whatever, right? And they said, I showed up anyway, and I'm so glad that I did. Look at this, we're getting the same sunshine that me and Gilda.
I know, it's crazy.
Woo!
Wow. Highlight.
But I hear that a lot. And you know, we talk about that in boot camp, that there's a lot of people who will have those bad days or bad months or whatever it is, and they'll show up in our room and they need to be around positive people. That's the other reason why it's important for everyone to show up, because you could be the one that helps someone come out of their, the dump, the doldrums, the whatever.
Yeah, you don't know what people are going through.
Exactly. And so just for you to show up and just be there for someone and be an ear and be, whatever it takes. And, that's the whole family thing. And,
right.
and the family thing was something that popped up a couple years ago, and it popped up from one of our members. I can't remember who said it first.
Well, I remember when I was in my accident. That was when I really saw the grit of what this group has.
A lot of people coming and helping out.
So I was in a really bad accident a year and a half ago, and the day after, this is just one example of what happened over and over. Brian Harding and his now wife showed up with 2 weeks worth of meals. Unannounced, didn't ask, just rang the doorbell. Here's food for 2 weeks.
Wow.
I mean, and I didn't really know him very well. It's things like that. I mean, just the outpouring of support and love and help that came was like, this isn't a business transaction group.
Right.
That's not what this is about. This is about creating authentic relationships.
Yep.
And if something happens to somebody in the group, I'm going to be the first person to help them and pay it forward. It's like what I saw come through at that time was it was stellar. It was totally stellar.
Yep. What other super secret nuggets do you have for someone who, someone who just started out, or even someone who's been around who maybe is, wishes they for some more success? Be
noticeable, be memorable. I don't put on a persona when I'm there, but I definitely take my energy level and tick it up like 2 ticks, because it makes me memorable. So I dance a little bit bigger, or whatever. It's right. Like I'm not usually one to flit around a room and go talk to everybody, but I do there, because that's what creates the and it's not just about talking about what you do. Find out what they do. So I mean, make sure that you're memorable. I was talking with a member about this a couple weeks ago, because she was talking, I won't say who it was, she was talking about how she wasn't getting anything, and I said, sweetie, you don't ever stand up and give a shout out. You don't ever you need to be.
They blend.
Yeah.
They just blend.
Yeah. It's like, and she's a wonderful person. She's awesome. Great to work with. And it was just like, you need to be more present visibly. Have a little bit bigger personality. And, because people will come to my studio and are you okay? Because I'm actually quieter than I am in the room.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, do you know if that person has gone through boot camp yet, by the way?
I don't know.
You may want to follow up with that person and just say, have you been through a boot camp? Because that could help. So, I know Angie's been through a boot camp. And a lot of those things we're talking about right now, we actually do a deep dive in boot camp. And so there have been people who have blended their entire time at Ignite You, but then they go through a boot camp, and we talk about exactly that, is how not to blend. We use those words, actually. And I've looked at people before and said, you blend. You come into a room and you just totally blend, and people don't remember who you are. It's what Angie was talking about. So,
and if you've done business with somebody, give them a shout out, even if you don't like to talk in front of people.
Yep.
Because then people know that you're giving business too.
Which we go heavily into boot camp. Tell me about, while we're on the boot camp, just tell me about your thoughts about boot camp and how that might be able to help anybody who hasn't gone through yet.
Okay, so this guy sitting next to me
That's
you. Is a absolute gold mine of information. The reason I love him so much is because he's trustworthy and authentic. He does this because he actually loves us all. And I could not be more grateful for my relationship with him. If he's offering something and he's not charging for it, which is totally selfless, he's not doing this to have personal gains. He's doing this because he authentically wants us all to succeed. So he's teaching us how to do it. And if you don't see the value in that, I don't really get why you're a member. because he's giving you tools that can help you grow in your business and your networking skills. So if you're, it's like handing back free money.
And so when you
know what I mean? It's like,
when
why would you not take advantage of that?
Right.
It makes no sense.
And when you came through boot camp, you had already been kind of immersed in the group and stuff. Was there new things that you learned that you were able to apply?
Yes.
What do you? I don't know. It was probably. I think the first boot camp was
fifth.
about.
I was in the.
You're in the 5th class, so we're on 20. 21
ago.
now, so it's got to be. I think last summer's when we started boot camp, so probably 8 months ago. What value did you get out of the boot camp that you could apply?
Mine is an interesting one. So you mentioned, because you go around to each person and tell them how they specifically in their business can do something that makes them stand out. Like Brian Harding's, I think, was spotting the trucks and taking that was huge.
Were you in that class with him?
No, I wish.
My gosh.
So one of mine, something you mentioned to me was you had asked a different group who they thought of when you asked if we have any boudoir photographers. And you said that they were answering Angie Guy. And that, it stung for a second.
At that point, it was about a 50-50.
It stung. I was like...
Because she came through boot camp before you, right?
She did. And she had not been a member for a super long time. And I love Angie. We've known each other since middle school. Like, I totally love her. But it was like, why aren't people thinking of me? You know, I'm here every meeting, you know. But what came from that is some self-reflection and acceptance that was okay. Mm-hmm. Because do you know what business I was getting at that point? Weddings, business branding, families, glamour. You know, it's like I was getting different gigs. So if she's taking the boudoir portion, that's fine, because that means she's succeeding too.
Right.
So the fact that that's what people were saying was actually okay with me after I thought about it. So that took back a lot of the competitive side of, like, I need all of the clients. That's not true.
I love that.
I don't.
And I know that you've been able to actually use the same things that we suggested for Angie, because then you've been able to duplicate that too. Mm-hmm. You do it on a different scale for Angie Guy, what we suggested, because when Angie Guy came through boot camp, we'd been asking everyone in boot camps if you needed to refer a boudoir photographer, who would it be? And everybody answered Angie Whitten. And so what I was telling Angie Guy was basically what Angie Whitten was just talking about was you're blending. People don't know who you are because you blend some way, somehow. So I suggested you've got to step out and get people to remember you through some tool. Now, what's cool about Ignite You is we have some additional tools that other groups don't utilize, and or they don't utilize as well. So we're very fortunate. One of those tools is our Facebook group.
Right.
So I suggested to Angie Whitten is, why don't you have a featured model of the week where you post some of your pictures?
Angie Guy.
I'm sorry, Angie Guy.
You're good.
I'm getting my Angies mixed up. Too many Angies.
No,
not enough Angies.
Not enough Angies, ever.
So post a photo, a featured model of the week, the same time every week. So if you notice this, it's every Wednesday about the same time. It's between noon and 3, somewhere in there. And they're very tastefully done photos. And
I think I might be the model of the week next week.
Nice. And so she's done, ever since boot camp, she's done it every single week. And so now when I ask in boot camp, who would you use? It's typically a 50-50 split between Angie Whitten and Angie Guy. So she used that tool to be able to get more people to think about her, which is one of those ways to be memorable. You don't just have to be memorable in the room. Right. You can also use the Facebook group to be memorable. Right. So I love, that is a huge tip, is to be memorable. And we, like you said, we do a deep dive in the boot camp. So when we announce that we have a boot camp coming up, if you haven't been there yet, I just highly, highly, highly recommend it, because everyone has gone through has picked up on some nuggets. They picked up on some, went, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Because we're also going to talk about some things that you might be doing right now that are actually hurting your efforts to be the most effective networker you can possibly be. So we love when we get a chance to go into that deep dive. So,
well, I mean, really, if you don't feel like you need to sign up for that, I think you need to evaluate why you think you're in a networking group. It's like, you're either in or you're out. Be in.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Be in, like.
Be in.
Because the people that aren't in are the ones that are going to complain that they didn't get anything.
Right.
It's like, look, it's like, look at how you're utilizing the group.
Be in.
Be in.
We should have T-shirts made. We should have Ignite You T-shirts that say "Be in."
Yeah, I'm all in.
I'm all in.
Totally. Like, there is rarely a meeting, and again, I've been doing this for 2.5 years, that I don't get some sort of a referral, consultation, or booking.
Wow.
It's rare that I show up for a meeting and somebody doesn't approach me about a shoot.
Wow. So, we're rounding the corner. Why
wouldn't I show up?
I know. That's just insane. So we're rounding the corner, coming back to the casino. So we're going to wrap it up here. I think we've been going for another half hour.
Right.
These are so fun to do because you guys have such great insights. See if someone lets me out.
And here's something else about being in. When I saw Gil do that last week, I walked into the meeting and I told Kieran, I want to do that.
Yep.
I want to be in your car.
Which she was on my list anyway, because she's already created a great story. So that's definitely who I want to have in the car, so we can share that with all of you guys. Mm-hmm. So here's what I wanted you to, everyone out there, to remember what she said. Number one is she went from zero 2.5 years ago, basically, or a couple $100s a month, to in December $20,000 in 1 month, almost 20,000, and about half that was due to Ignite You connection. So good on all you.
Yes, thank you.
But good on Angie for amazing networking skills that she's put into place. And she didn't do a lot of networking before, so these were a lot of things that she honed in the last 2.5 years. And number one was she learned you've got to show up. If you're not going to show up, you're not going to get the results you want. So showing up. Number two is, what are you going to do when you get there? You have to be memorable. You have to be present, was a big one. So when you're at a table, put the phone down and be present. Listen to what everyone else is saying. Make eye contact. Be with those people at that table, and create authentic, genuine relationships. And that's the only way that she got to where she went from 0 to 20,000 in 1 month. Showing up, creating those relationships, being present, being with, and none of that would have happened. The very first step is the key, is showing up. Because I always tell people, you could show up and actually never say a thing and be further ahead than if you just didn't show up at all. Because people they'll remember you as, hey, that's the guy who doesn't talk. I mean, just don't talk at all. Right. They'll remember you for that. That'll be your memorable thing. But you're not going to get the best results that way. But the big thing is, and it's the same thing that Gil had last week, is if you don't show up, number one, you can't learn about the other people to give them any referrals. So it's really tough to be a team player to help everybody else out. And you can't be there, like she just said. Every time she shows up, she's getting referrals, she's getting leads, she's making appointments. If she doesn't show up, that all goes away. It doesn't go away like over a period of time. It goes away now. It's amazing that when you stop showing up, you disconnect immediately. I've seen it dozens and dozens and dozens of times. So, man, what an enlightening ride.
This was awesome.
I heart her.
Oh, I heart you too.
She's the best.
You're the best.
So if you get a chance, when you get a chance to come to Ignite You, I would highly encourage you, if you haven't met Angie yet, you've got to meet her. And the cool thing is, when you come in, you meet her, she's going to introduce you to other people because she's great on creating those relationships. So if you're new, this is someone that you need to find right away. Aww. Because she's going to introduce you to other people. She's going to help you create the success that she has. So she's one of the best mentors we have at Ignite You. Aww. Just find her and say, what should I do? And then do exactly what she does. Just do exactly what she does, and you will have phenomenal success. I don't care what industry it's in. Just do what Angie does. So be in. Just go all in, and you'll have amazing results. So thank you guys. We're back at the casino. We're gonna run in here, get set up. We'll see you guys at 11:30 today, and we're looking forward to having someone back in the car next week. Don't know who it is yet. Got some ideas, but I'm sure it'll be another.
Maybe it's you.
It could be. I was going to say, well, I know it'll be me because I'll be in the car.
It's definitely you.
It could be them.
It could be you.
Where is the camera? It
there
must
it is,
be
right
there. All right, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Love you guys.
Bye.